Hi, this is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com. Welcome to the South Carolina College Baseball video recap for Saturday, April the 19th. There were 35 games involving state teams played on Saturday. Of course, most of them moved their schedules up or adjusted them in some way to avoid playing on Easter Sunday. In the games that were played, we'll start with the NCAA Division I teams first. Over at Doug Kingsmore Stadium, Louisville took a 4-3 lead into the bottom of the ninth inning, only to have Josh Pano tied up with a home run. Then the Cardinals scored 2 runs in the top of the 10th inning. Clemson responded with 2 in the bottom of the inning, including one unearned run to make play keep going. But then Tag Davis hit a 2-run homer in the 12th, and Clemson could not respond. Louisville leaves this upstate with an 8-6 win in 12 innings to salvage the final game of the ACC series. Cam Canarella hit a 2-run homer to give the Tigers an early lead. Louisville came back and tied it, went ahead, and later went to the extra innings, as we talked about. With that loss, Clemson fell to 35-7 overall, 13-5 in the ACC. They fell percentage points behind Florida State in the ACC standing. Of course, the Seminoles did not get to play their series against Virginia this weekend because all athletic events at Florida State were canceled after the tragic shooting on campus on Friday. Louisville, with the win, improved to 28-11 and 10-8. Down at Conway, Colby Thorndyke homered, walked twice, and drove in 3 runs, and Coastal Carolina scored in double figures for the third straight game this weekend in a 13-5 win over Marshall to complete a Sun Belt Conference sweep. The Chanticleers are now 30-14 overall, 14-4 in the conference. Marshall fell to 18-22 and 6-12. For Coastal, Caden Bodine had 2 doubles, walked, scored 2 runs, and drove in a run. Elsewhere, down in Columbia, Ole Miss scored 6 runs before USC could record an out, and the Rebels went on to run rule the Gamecocks 12-2 to avoid being swept in an SEC series down in Columbia. The Rebels' Austin Fowley hit a grand slam in the first inning, and it was retrieved on the concourse by his mother. She caught it on a hop or two and had a great souvenir from her trip to Columbia. For the Rebels, they are now 28-12 overall, 10-8 in the SEC. South Carolina fell to 23-18 and 4-14. Carolina was hopeful of getting some momentum going on into next week with a sweep, but it was not to be. Bo Hollins had a 2-run homer to provide USC scoring. Carolina had some issues with injuries. Dylan Eskew was scheduled to start, but he did not because Coach Paul Maneri was not quite ready to put him back out after he's had some recent injury problems. Jarvis Evans did get the start on short notice and did not record an out. Matthew Becker came in and pitched well, then had to leave with an injury. He apparently tweaked something, tried to pitch through it, and threw a home run on the next pitch. Left the game. Starting catcher Gavin Braylon left after taking a foul tip off a knuckle. And shortstop Henry Kazmar apparently left because of some issue, too. Don't really know what was going on with Kazmar's injury, but he did leave after like the first, maybe even the second inning. But we'll have to see what goes on with that. But anyway, the Gamecocks had hoped to move up in the standings or at least get closer to the teams ahead of them, but it was not to be. Elsewhere, in Rock Hill, Chaz Groskington was 3 for 3 and drove in 2 runs for Winthrop, and the Eagles wrapped up a Big South Conference Series sweep of Gardner-Webb with a 7-5 win. The Eagles improved to 22-20 overall and 8-7 in the Big South. They were way below 500 at one point. Gardner-Webb improved to 16-25 and 5-10. For the Eagles, Connor Harris went the first 5 2/3 innings. He allowed 2 runs, struck out 7, and he got the win. Elsewhere, in North Charleston, Caden Smith hit a grand slam. It was his second in as many days, and it was part of a 10-run third inning, and Charleston Southern went on to run rule Longwood 17-6 to wrap up a Big South Conference sweep of that series. The Buccaneers improved to 22-14 overall, 8-7 in the Big South. They also came from early deficit in the Big South. And Longwood fell to 10-30 and 4-11. For Charleston Southern, Brandon Phillips was 2 for 4 with a double, a run scored, and 3 RBI. Elsewhere, USC Upstate rallied from 9 runs down after 2.5 innings, then scored 8 runs in the 8th and went on to beat UNC Greensboro 18-13 to take that non-conference meeting of teams nicknamed the Spartans. UNC Greensboro had an 11-2 lead after 2.5 innings, but did not score again the rest of the until the 9th inning. The Spartans chipped back within 11-10, then scored 8 runs in the 8th to go up by an 18-11 score. Greensboro scored a couple of runs in the 13th before they retired, and Upstate improved to 21-19, and Greensboro fell to 18-21. Northeastern shut out College of Charleston for the second straight day to clinch a Coastal Athletic Association Series win. The Huskies were in first place in the conference, are 29-9 overall, 12-2 in the conference. The College fell to 22-15 and 7-7. They're now 5 games out of first place. It's going to take a pretty big bit of work to have a chance to even come up and tie for first. But I'm sure Coach Chad Holbrook will be trying to do just that. That was 11th shutout of the season for Northeastern. I checked, and as of the last record book I could find in 2019, the record was for shutouts in a season by a team is 24. I don't think anyone's broken that recently with all the offense that's going on. But still, 11 shutouts by a team in one season is pretty good. Dylan Johnson had a single and a double for the College in that game. Also, Radford scored 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning, including an unearned run to take the lead, and beat Presbyterian by a score 9-8 to sweep that Big South Conference series. The Highlanders are now 20-19, 8-7 overall. PC fell to 16-22 and 8-7. Rogue Wallace of the Blue Hose led off the game with a home run for the second straight day, and he added a single and another homer later in the day. He's hit 4 home runs over this past week after not having any going into the game. Of course, he has not played a whole lot until recently, but still, 4 home runs in a week is nice stuff. As I mentioned, Radford 2019 PC is 16-22. Up in Cullowhee, Western Carolina scored in 6 of the 8 innings and run-ruled Wofford 15-5 to take the rubber game of that Southern Conference series. The Catamounts improved to 19-20 overall, 4-8 in the conference. Wofford fell to 24-17 and 3-9. Those two teams had entered the weekend tied for 7th in the conference, so now Wofford's in sole possession of 8th place. There's still some time left to make some climbing in the standings. Raul Feliz had a single and 2 RBIs for Wofford in that game. In NCAA Division II, Ronaldo Houston struck out 12 in a 7-inning complete game in Game 1, and 5 pitchers combined to fan 14 in Game 2 as Francis Marion swept Shawan by scores of 7-1 and 11-0 in that Conference Carolina series. The Patriots also swept the overall series. Francis Marion improved to 36-11 overall, 22-8 in the conference. Shawan fell to 6-29 and 4-23. For Francis Marion, Will Durrell had 2 hits, including a double, scored a run, drove in a run in Game 1. And Owen Taylor had 2 doubles, a walk, and 3 RBIs in Game 2. Elsewhere in Conference Carolinas, North Greenville stretched its winning streak to 16 games with a win over King in Game 1 of their series. The final score was 8-3. Bryce Roddy was 4 for 5 with 2 doubles, 2 runs scored, and an RBI. But in Game 2, King came back and jumped on North Greenville early, 7 runs in the first couple of innings, and held on to win 9-4. With that split, North Greenville is now 40-9 overall, 19-8 in the conference. King improved to 13-32 and 8-19. You look at it and say, well, how's that happen? Well, that's baseball. Teams that don't have very good records can beat really good teams sometimes. Elsewhere in Conference Carolinas, up in Cary, North Carolina, UNC Pembroke had its senior day away from home because their stadium's been under construction most of the season, and beat Erskine a pair of games. First game score was 3-2. Second game 2 was 7-2. The Braves are now 26-19 overall, moved to 14-13 in the Conference Carolinas. Erskine fell to 18-28 and 7-20. For Erskine, Pierce Radke had a couple of hits in Game 1, and Dylan Wannett had a single and 2 doubles and a run scored in Game 2. Also, Emmanuel swept Southern Wesleyan in a doubleheader, played at Central. They won the first game 7-3, the second game by a score of 23-3. In Game 1, Logan Brazell pitched some good relief for the Warriors. He went 5 1/3 innings, allowed 1 run, struck out 4. And in Game 2, Marty Grisso was 3 for 3 with a homer and 3 RBI for Southern Wesleyan. Emmanuel moved over 500 at 24-22 and 13-14 in the conference. Southern Wesleyan fell to 9-38 and 8-19. In the Peach Belt Conference, Zach Cowart's 3-1 double in an eighth inning broke a 2-2 tie and lifted Lander to a 6-2 win over Claflin in Game 2 of their doubleheader and completed a sweep. The Bearcats won Game 1 16-5 in 7 innings. Elijah Bonner pitched a complete game for Claflin. He allowed Lander to 4 hits in Game 2. That's no small accomplishment. Lander is now 33-13 overall, 20-4 in the conference. Claflin fell to 5, 36-1 and 0-24. For Lander in Game 1, Grant Sherrod was 3 for 3 with a walk, 2 doubles, 2 runs scored, and 5 RBI. And in Game 2, Jake Larson pitched 6 innings, allowed 3 hits, 2 runs, and struck out 7. Elsewhere in the Peach Belt, Cooper McDaniel scored the game's only run on a 5th inning pass ball, and 3 USC Buford pitchers combined for a shutout as the Sand Sharks salvaged the last game of a series at Flagler 1-0. USC Buford had lost the previous 2 games on the Flagler's last at bats. Couple of tough losses, but they did hold on today. USC Buford's now 9-33, 5-19 in the conference. Flagler fell to 28-16 and 12-12. Aiken, USC Aiken was trying to salvage the final game of the series at first place in North Georgia. The Pacers took the lead in the top of the ninth, but North Georgia rallied and tied it in the bottom of the ninth and won it in the 12th inning by the score of 7-6. In that game for Aiken, Elihu Poventude, I hope I'm pronouncing his name, is 4 for 5 with a run scored and a stolen base. North Georgia, with that win, improved to 21-3 in the conference, 33-12 overall. USC Aiken fell to 18-26 and 8-16. In the South Atlantic Conference, Newberry scored the go-ahead run in Game 2 on a muffed play and run down in the infield and went on to a 5-4 win over Anderson to complete a sweep. The Wolves won first game 3-2, and they wound up sweeping the series against the Trojans. Newberry is now 25-21 overall, 14-16 in the SAC. Anderson fell to 23-22 and 11-16. Jonathan Velez was 2 for 3 with 2 RBI for the Wolves in Game 1. In Game 2, Cooper Gentry had a hit and a run scored and an RBI. Elsewhere in the South Atlantic Conference, Davis Turner hit a 2-run homer and a grand slam, and Limestone split a doubleheader against Wingate. The game's one score was 9-2 in Wingate's favor. Game 1 score Wingate 9-2. Game 2 score Limestone 7-5. That was Limestone's first win since they got the news earlier this week that the program is quite likely being dropped. Most of the players have already announced they're going to transfer out. The school said it's having some severe financial issues, and and it sounds like at best they're going to go to online learning only. That would mean cutting out all campus activities. But anyway, even if it's the last win that Limestone should get, they've got another week's worth of play going on. At least they did get another win to kind of just feel better about themselves. Limestone is now 22-23 overall, 13-14 in the conference. Wingate is 23-22 and 14-13. Down in Hartsville, Lincoln Memorial scored 5 runs in the final inning of Game 2 to complete a sweep of a doubleheader from Coker. The first game score was, first game score was 13-10. The second game score was 9-6. Now, Lincoln Memorial is 23-21 overall, 13-14 in the conference. Coker fell to 26-20 and 14-13. In other action involving four-year schools, Jerry and Pinckney and Parker Winfield homered, or had 2 hits apiece, as Spartan Methodist beat Carolina University for the second straight day. This time the score was 9-8 in the Continental Athletic Conference showdown down at Lawrenceville, Georgia. But the Pioneers played host Georgia Gwinnett again later in the day and lost 20-7. Second straight day they lost to Georgia Gwinnett. They played a split doubleheader both days, obviously. Now Spartan Methodist is 19-27. They're 8-3 in the Continental Athletic Conference. Georgia Gwinnett is 41-4, actually 42-4 now because they did beat Carolina University in a later game, 23-3. Conley Burke singled, homered, walked twice, and scored 2 runs as Bob Jones took Game 2 of a doubleheader at South Houston Baptist by a score of 5-4. That allowed the Bruins to avoid a series sweep and to snap a 7-game losing streak. The Bruins fell to Southeastern Baptist 8-2 in Game 1. Bob Jones is now 10-25, and Southeastern Baptist is 16-14. Excuse me, I had to find it again. Bob Jones, Mannix Crawford was 2 for 2 with a walk, 2 stolen bases, and a run scored in Game 1. Cody Kirkpatrick was 2 for 5 with a run scored in Game 2. Also, Spring Hill jumped on Benedict early and wound up beating the Tigers 23-2 to complete a Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference sweep down in Columbia. The Spring Hill is now 34-10 overall, 27-2 in the conference. Benedict fell to 19-16 and 15-14. In the game today, Jose Gill had a single and a home run for the Tigers. Among Junior College Region 10, Patrick Evans singled twice, homered twice, drove in 7 runs as Florence and Arlington Tech broke a 9-9 tie late in the game and went on to beat USC Sumter 15-10 in the rubber game of their series at Riley Park in Sumter. The Stingers improved to 41-9 overall, 23-4 in the conference, or in the region, I should say. USC Sumter is now 24-21 and 12-15. USC Union had a late offensive outburst and beat USC Lancaster 14-6 to salvage the final game of their series in Jonesville. The Bantams are now 28-18 overall, 12-15 in the region. USC Lancaster fell to 22-23 and 14-13. In that game, Cole Harding was 3 for 5 with 3 runs scored and 3 RBIs for the Bantams. And in the other game in the region, Gaston College completed a sweep of USC Salkehatchie with a 3-1 win in Gastonia. Ryan Soto got the Indians only 2 hits, but it was one of the best pitching performances for the Indians all season. They only allowed the 3 runs. That was the second fewest. They did allow just 2 and a 5-2 win over USC Lancaster on February 22nd. With that win, Gaston College is 36-12-1, 18-9 in the region. USC Salkehatchie is 2-43, 2-25 now. And that is it for the action involving state teams. Let's go on to the ACC. Boston College beat Wake Forest 7-5. Duke beat Pitt 19-9. Miami beat Georgia Tech 7-2. NC State beat California 5-2. Notre Dame beat Stanford 11-0, and Virginia Tech beat North Carolina 10-6. How about the ACC standings? Florida State is in first place by percentage points at 11-4. Clemson's in at 13-5, followed by Georgia Tech at 14-6, NC State at 12-6, North Carolina is 12-8, Duke's 12-9, and Louisville is 10-8. The rest of the standings are on my website. In the SEC, Alabama beat LSU 7-4 to salvage the finale of that series. Kentucky evened its series with Tennessee with a 4-1 win. Texas wrapped up a sweep of Auburn with a 14-2 7-inning win. Vanderbilt got a series win over Georgia by a score of 5-2. And Florida and Mississippi State are playing a late game. Not counting that game, let's see what's going on in the standings. Texas is 16-2. Arkansas is 13-5. Tennessee is 12-5 with Game 3 to go tomorrow. LSU fell to 12-6. Vanderbilt is 11-7. Georgia's 10-8, as are Oklahoma and Ole Miss. I will update those standings after the Florida-Mississippi State game is over as well. As I mentioned, there's not much going on Sunday in college baseball. Northeastern and College of Charleston play at noon up in Boston in the only game involving a state school. You can always follow what's going on at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. I provide updates on X under the handle of Palmetto Base. I would love to hear from you what you think about my coverage of college baseball in the state of South Carolina. I just want to try to make it easy for folks to follow college baseball, become fans, and help the sport grow. That's my only goal. Again, tomorrow is Easter. If you're a believer, go to church somewhere. You'll get a blessing, I'm sure. If you don't have a church home, you're near Greenville, come see us at Reedy River Baptist Church on North Bypass 25 North between the Furman University Golf Course and Travelers Rest. We have a sunrise service at 7, and we'll have a regular worship service at 10:30. You can find information about the church at ReedyRiverBC.org. ReedyRiverBC.org. Again, this is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com, finishing up the South Carolina College Baseball video recap for April 19th. Thank you. Good night, and Jesus loves you.